Our story begins inside of a cantina on a spaceport that Plo Koon already forgot the name of. The former Jedi Master ordered another drink, and he made sure his hood was covering his face. He didn't want to be noticed at all. And for the last 16 or so years since the end of the Clone War, Plo had been an expert at staying away from the Imperials. Plo adjusted his mask to sip on his drink, and he listened in on a HoloNet broadcast playing on one of the nearby screens. The screen had the headline, "Gorman citizens have begun dangerous riots against the peaceful Imperial negotiations." And the reporter was saying that even though the Imperials are desperately trying to maintain peaceful negotiations, local insurgents have spread dangerous rumors and organized dangerous insurrections. Plo could hear the people around him in the cantina remark that the Gormans are just getting themselves into trouble. They should just listen to the Empire, and everything would be fine. But Plo knew the truth. He saw through the lies of the Empire, and these HoloNet broadcasts immediately gave Plo flashbacks to his 15 years after the war, and before he ended up alone in this cantina. Jedi Master Plo Koon was flying a victory lap through Cato Nemoidia with his men, his brothers, when it all went wrong. Feeling in the Force hit Plo as he flew, and only a second later, Captain Jeg fired from his starfighter. Plo's ship went down in a fiery crash, but Plo was able to eject at the final second. But the chute caught on fire, and Plo twisted over an edge, falling down through the clouds. The clones were never going to find him, and he was assumed dead, but Plo had rolled onto a rocky ledge before going unconscious. When he woke up and was finally able to find a way off of Cato Nemoidia after weeks of trying to stay hidden, it was already too late. The galaxy had moved on. The Jedi were all dead. Palpatine had become Emperor of the Galaxy. The clones were a security force hunting down Jedi, separatists, and insurrectionists. The galaxy had turned completely upside down in a single moment. Plo had no friends, no allies, nowhere to go. So, he went home. Not to the Jedi Temple. That no longer really existed. Instead, Plo went to Doran, the planet that he was born on. Plo had no memories of living on the planet, as he was taken to become a Jedi as an infant, but it was still home to his species. And upon arriving to the planet in a stolen ship, the people of Doran were immediately weary of his arrival. Plo didn't hide his life as a Jedi. That would not be fair to the people. He arrived, and he asked the Council of Doran if they will accept him and keep his arrival a secret. If not, he would understand. All he asks for is time to get out of here. And after many conversations, the Council would choose Plo over the Empire, and Plo would transition into this new life. It wasn't easy. He desperately wanted to get back into the galaxy and fight this Empire, but how could he? He lost. His own men betrayed him, and Plo in this moment felt extremely lost, and if Doran didn't accept him, he wasn't sure where he would have gone. Time would go by here, and Plo would not easily make friends. People, while accepting him being here, were afraid to be around a Jedi. They didn't fully believe the lies of the Empire regarding the Jedi, but they also couldn't be too sure. Plo was essentially branded as a terrorist, and was too dangerous to be left alive, the Empire said. It gave everyone fear. Everyone, except for Bola Keevil. This Keldor woman was around the same age as Plo, and she found him rather fascinating. His everlasting kind heart, despite the way people treated him, showed Bola that Plo was not a danger. The former Jedi went out of his way every day to help with the crops or whatever else, and soon Bola got close with Plo. And as the two of them hung around each other, Bola taught Plo to let go of his Jedi strings and begin to open up to her. This would go on until the two of them fell in love, and before they knew it, Plo and Bula would have a child together, naming the young boy Kit Koon after one of Plo's former friends. And their life together was calm, peaceful, and perfect for 15 years. Plo told himself that he wasn't hiding from his past, he was just moving on. He told himself this was what he deserved. Young Kit grew into a wonderful young man, and both Plo and Bola couldn't be more proud. And as Kit grew, he began to feel powers. Plo would explain the Force to the boy, but he would make sure that Kit knew that this power had to stay hidden, as around this time, rumors were circulating Doran and everywhere else on the galaxy that the Empire was cracking down on rebels and insurrectionists. Imperial occupation on planets was only increasing, and so far, Doran had managed to stay peaceful, and the people of Doran wanted it to stay that way. So one day, 15-year-old Kit would be in a forest as he was secretly using the Force to pull fruit down from trees. He thought it was safe to do, but one of the other Keldor species here, an older man who both believed in and feared the Empire, saw Kit doing this, and he decided on a whim that this had to be reported to the Empire. Plo and his child were illegally living here, and the rumors said that the two of them, with their force powers, could be dangerous to the people, so Kit would now be reported to the Empire. And one calm evening, as Plo and Bola were eating supper with Kit, the alarms around the city would ring. The Empire was here, and they were here with a vengeance. It wouldn't be long before 10 dropships landed, and stormtroopers poured out of them, running from home to home, as they demanded to know where the Jedi is. Plo ran deep into his own home, grabbing his lightsaber for the first time in over a decade. Bola ran up to him, telling Plo to run, get out of here, but Plo said he cannot let these people suffer for him being here. He has to do this. But as Plo ran back to the door, he saw something that made him feel joy even in this moment of chaos and terror. The people, the friends he made over these 15 years, stood in a huge group in front of his home. They were peacefully standing there in protest of the Empire, protecting their friend who they knew was innocent, protecting a 15-year-old boy. And the stormtroopers all focused their weapons onto them. The people weren't moving, but the Empire was a machine that devoured anyone in its way. An Imperial shuttle suddenly flew overhead, and it descended right in front of Plo's home, right where the protesters gathered. The shuttle didn't wait for them to leave. It descended right on top of the protesters, crushing a dozen of them, injuring many more, forcing them to scramble away as the ramp lowered and a red lightsaber ignited from inside. Darth Vader was here, as he suspected this reported Jedi could be Plo Koon himself. Plo looked upon this monster, a representation of the Empire itself, and he ignited his own blade. But Vader had spent 15 years sharpening his skills, while Plo spent these 15 years as a regular citizen. He never stood a chance in this battle. Vader reached out a fist, slamming Plo through his doorway, and he crashed into the living room wall. The concrete fell around Plo as he screamed out in pain. Vader entered to find a mother and a son, standing in front of Plo to protect him. Plo slowly stood back up, moving past his family, swinging hard at Vader to try and protect them. The two of them clashed a few times before Vader grabbed Plo's wrist, swinging him hard and slamming him into the floor. The floor cracked. Vader spoke in his mechanical voice, telling Plo he was foolish to ever think he could have a normal life. And Vader threw his lightsaber spinning through the air. Plo couldn't bear to look, but the sounds of two bodies hitting the floor was enough. And in Plo's memory, everything from here was a blur. His family was gone. He was seeing red as he felt the Force flow into him. He threw Vader back through the wall, and he took off running. Plo cut down more stormtroopers, more than he needed to, and it was revenge. Plo stumbled his way into a hidden ship in the forest, barely taking off before Vader could reach him. But for Vader, this was more than satisfying. He would kill Plo Koon another day. For now, Plo would understand what it was like to lose everything. And now, back in the moment, Plo snapped out of this flashback of memories as a drunken Nemoidian nearly knocked him over on his way to the restroom. Plo looked back up to the screens, where the Imperial propaganda machine was spewing lies on Gorman, the same lies they told about the massacre on Doran, that the protesters were causing riots and insurrections. And Plo decided it was time to strike back. He would go to Gorman, and he would be what the people need, what his family needed, what the galaxy needs: a Jedi. Hours later, on Gorman, thousands of citizens were standing up in protest around the planet, and most specifically in the main city plaza. The Empire was bringing in mining equipment to tear the planet apart, and soon the Empire secretly shot one of their own men. The trooper fell, and this would incite the violence. Stormtroopers and Imperial officers began firing at the innocent, peaceful Gorman citizens. The citizens were forced to fight back out of desperation and fear, and today, hundreds of civilians would die at the hands of a riot created by the Empire itself. A riot years in the making, a riot to seize control. But as the troopers opened fire and the plaza was being cleared, a new ship flew overhead, and Jedi Master Plo Koon would jump out the back of it. Plo landed in the plaza, igniting his blade, and he aided the scattered citizens. Whether it was clearing children out of the way of bombs or turrets, helping a group of people fight back, or helping open up new escape routes, Plo Koon was exactly what the Gorman people needed. But he was not enough. So many would die here. But as Plo fought, the rebels that were here would watch. Cassian Andor was among them, and though he didn't necessarily believe in the powers of the Force, what this Keldor man was doing was undeniable. And so, when the Empire released 6 KX droids to deal with the scattering protesters, it was Plo Koon who distracted them, allowing the people to escape with their lives. Plo moved from droid to droid, cutting through them as he quickly felt his powers and his battle instincts return to form. The droids were quickly taken care of, and Plo knew it was time to go. He did what he could. He knew the ship he brought here was no good anymore, so Plo hijacked a speeder and he rode to the outskirts of the city. It would be here that he found a ship waiting, and inside of it, he found one man preparing to take off. Cassian Andor was already in this ship. He turned, and Plo put his hands up, saying that he saw Cassian and Gorman. They are on the same side. Plo asked Cassian to bring him to wherever he is going. He wants to be part of the fight against the Empire. Cassian wrestled with himself for a long time. It was dangerous bringing just anyone to Yavin, but he saw what Plo did here today. They would need someone like him. So, they took off together. The trip through hyperspace was interesting. Cassian and Plo weren't exactly two of the most talkative people, but they soon found a common experience in their reluctant talk: loss. Plo told Cassian that he finally wants to fight the Empire after years of trying to build a new life, before the Empire came, killed his family, simply because he was once a Jedi. Cassian knew the history. The day the Empire was created, every single Jedi was killed in a single order. Almost every single Jedi. And so, Cassian would open up about both his adoptive father and mother dying, and both of them dying with a message to take on the Empire, not to mention the many friends he has lost in this fight. Both Plo and Cassian agreed that this fight will be worth it for themselves and for the many people they have lost. The Yavin rebels would be weary of Plo at first, but they had to be. This base was extremely secretive, and it would be Bail Organa who would convince the other rebel leaders here that Plo can be trusted. Bail was known to have Jedi connections or just be the most compassionate when it came to the Jedi, and he would help Plo integrate himself within the Yavin base. After all, Plo was once a general in the Galactic War that took place less than 2 decades ago, and soon he would start going on missions that would disrupt Imperial supply chains and make the Imperials know they are no longer safe to operate however they want. The rebellion is coming. Things would go smoothly with Plo in this rebellion for months, until Empire Day was approaching. Every year, the Empire celebrated the day that the Jedi were killed, the war ended, and the Republic became the Empire. And on this very Empire Day, Emperor Palpatine himself was said to be attending a military parade on Naboo to show off the might of the Empire. Palpatine sent out a decree saying that any protests of this parade will be met with heavy force. Plo Koon told the Yavin Council that they must go to Naboo on this Empire Day, attack the parade, show the Empire they will no longer be intimidated. It was Mon Mothma who stepped up to say it was too risky. The rebellion is not ready for such an attack. They must plan more carefully. But Plo disagreed, saying this is the perfect moment. Bail Organa spoke now, telling Plo that perhaps his mind is clouded because of what this day means to him. The anniversary of the Jedi genocide could be clouding his view, and this Naboo parade could be a trap set by Palpatine himself. Plo calmly looked to every member of the Yavin Council, and he said that if this is a trap set up for the rebellion, then that is all the more reason to launch an attack. The council looked a bit confused, so Plo tried laying it out, saying that this is their opportunity to show the galaxy how scared the Empire truly is. He continued, saying that the Empire is celebrating their strength, their power, acting as if they are flawless and satisfied with everything. But if the rebellion shows up, and if the Empire reveals a trap, it will show one thing to the people of the galaxy. It will show the people how afraid the Empire is. It will show the people that despite the soldiers, despite the guns, the ships, tanks, weapons, despite having everything, all the power they could possibly want, they are still afraid. Because deep down, the Empire knows there are more people willing to fight back than people willing to fight for them. Plo finished by saying that the Empire has spent its entire life creating division between the working people, the good people, because they are afraid of unity among the citizens of the galaxy. And they have a chance now to expose that fear on Naboo. The Yavin Council nodded their understanding, and before long, the attack would be granted. Plo was right. This was a chance to show the galaxy that they can fight back. And the planning got underway. The leader of this mission would be none other than Wolf, as he and Plo Koon were reunited after these many years. The reunion was bittersweet, as their history together ended so horribly. But Plo would finally learn of the inhibitor chips, and he would welcome Wolf back into his life. Weeks later, the Naboo military parade was well underway on the 18th annual Empire Day. As tanks moved through the city of Theed, while TIE fighters flew overhead, soldiers marched the long route. In the lead tank, Moff Panaka stood tall out of it, with the ever-smug look on his face as he looked up to the people. They were all standing outside their homes, cheering on the Empire out of fear more than anything else. He had avoided assassination attempts by rebels recently, including the group led by Saw Gerrera, and this only made Panaka more arrogant. But today, as his tank moved over a Naboo bridge, he would take his final breath. Underwater explosives were detonated, and the bridge erupted with the 4 tanks on it. The rebellion made their move, and now the Empire would make theirs. Panaka was a necessary and expected sacrifice. The Empire knew these bombs were here, and they would trace the detonation to a restaurant nearby where Plo Koon and Wolf were leading a squad of rebels. As the bombs went off, the Empire scrambled stormtroopers to the area, and a shuttle launched from the palace. Palpatine was never here, but Darth Vader was. Plo Koon saw the shuttle, and he told Wolf to go get out of here. He will deal with this. So Wolf and the rebel group sprang into action, moving through the Naboo sewers and underground tunnels that the Empire would struggle to find them in, while Plo waited in the empty restaurant plaza. Vader's shuttle landed, the door opened, and the Dark Lord stalked down the ramp to meet Plo face to face once more. Plo looked upon the machine of a man that slaughtered his family and his friends. Plo spent some time on Yavin, learning what he could of this Vader, and although he did not know much, he found out about Malachor. It was said that Vader killed Ahsoka there, and the report filed by Ezra Bridger, it seemed like Ahsoka and Vader had a history together. Plo put the pieces together, and today, he told Anakin Skywalker that he is sorry for what he has become. Vader ignited his lightsaber, saying Plo was nothing more than another number in the long line of Jedi he has killed. Plo lifted his blade, saying that the line ends here, and Vader's death will ignite the spark that will bring the Empire down. Without another word, the sabers clashed with a brutal snap, locking briefly before Plo spun low, aiming to sweep Vader's legs. Vader blocked with a downward cut, then drove forward with heavy hammer-like strikes, forcing Plo back towards the now quiet riverside restaurant. Plo raised a hand, using the force to hurl a steel table at Vader, slowing him just enough to reposition near the riverbank. Vader advanced, strikes were relentless, overhead smashes, side clashes, thrusts, designed to overwhelm the Jedi. Plo ducked beneath a vicious arc, retaliated with an elbow jab to Vader's abdomen, catching the armor but drawing a painful grunt. The duel moved down to the stone steps, towards the river. Water lapped at their boots as they exchanged a flurry of parries and cuts, Plo's footwork graceful and evasive, Vader's powerful and direct. Sparks flew as their blades scraped across the iron railings and the chipped stone. Vader was impressed with Plo's abilities. On Doran, he seemed like an old man, but now his powers were all the way back. Vader reached for Plo with the Force, but he rolled to Vader's left, and he launched forward with a new counterattack, deflecting, striking, pivoting, using Vader's aggression against him. In another exchange under the canopy of Naboo's river trees, Vader lunged with a crushing two-handed strike, meant to cleave Plo in half. But Plo sidestepped at the last second, saber rotating behind him in a spinning arc that carved into Vader's side with a sizzling gash. Sparks were flying out of the armor. Vader fell to one knee. Breathing erratic, he swung again, desperate, but Plo caught the blade in a bind, and he twisted hard, disarming the Sith Lord with a flick. Before Vader could recover, Plo spun around, mirroring an old move Anakin used to use, and he plunged his saber deep into the exposed control panel of Vader's chest plate. Another burst of sparks erupted. Vader crumpled to the ground, smoke rising from his ruined armor, barely breathing. Plo stood over him, river glowing in the sunset beside them, and Plo swung hard, removing Vader's head, bringing mercy to the lives of Anakin, Ahsoka, Plo's family, and so many more. Vader fell into the water, sinking down to never be seen again, as he would now belong to the huge fish down in the water. And as the Imperials scrambled to find the rebels, paying for Vader's arrogance in wanting to do this alone, Wolf and the crew got to their ship, and they would pick up Plo Koon on their way out. The rebels would fly out of Naboo just as a new Star Destroyer arrived, and they would leave with a clear message to the galaxy. The Empire is afraid. The tighter they close their grip, the more the rebels slip through their fingers. Vader was dead. Naboo saw a new act of rebellion. The tides were turning, and the impact of Naboo would be felt over the next year. Plo would return to Yavin, and over this year, more and more systems would see acts of rebellion rising up against the Empire. As Emperor Palpatine called in more stormtroopers to quell protests, the people only continued to rise up. Yavin grew, more funding came in, the rebellion grew, and at the end of this year, they would learn about the Death Star. Cassian would come to Plo Koon with the news that the plans are on Scarif, and together, Plo and Cassian would convince the Yavin Council to launch an attack to recover these plans. So before long, The Scarif attack would be launched with the full might of the rebellion, not just the Rogue One crew. Plo and Wolf would lead the surface attack, while Cassian and Jyn worked with K2SO to infiltrate the tower. The rebels in space would work to keep the shield gate open, and when the rebels had the plans, it would be Plo Koon who escorted an escape transport out of Scarif after Cassian killed Director Krennic. The Death Star plans were stolen, and the group escaped just before the Death Star itself would arrive. After the successful mission to Scarif, Bail Organa would give Plo Koon a new mission: escort his daughter Leia to Tatooine. There they will find an old friend, Obi-Wan Kenobi, tasked with watching over the son of Skywalker, and it was time to reunite with Kenobi, bring the Jedi out of the galaxy of hiding. Obi-Wan would work with Plo and Leia to soon convince Obi-Wan and Beru to let him train Luke, and before long, with Obi-Wan and Luke with them, the group would leave Tatooine together. Obi-Wan would tell Luke and Leia that they are siblings and that Vader was their father, but he is gone now. The two of them would accept this, and Luke would begin his training under Obi-Wan. And it wouldn't be long until the Empire learned where the Death Star was headed: Doran, the place where all of this started for Plo. The Death Star was headed there to show what harboring Jedi will now do to a planet, and because Vader was dead, Emperor Palpatine himself was going to be on board the battle station. The rebellion would be there to meet him. The battle above Doran would soon begin, and amid the chaos, Luke Skywalker would weave through laser fire. His breathing was measured, but it was tense, and beside him flew an aging but expert pilot, Plo Koon, holding back wave after wave of TIE interceptors as he flew alongside Luke. He flew just like his father, Plo thought. In the distance, the lead Mon Calamari cruiser rattled under fire, and from the command deck, Obi-Wan's voice crackled into Luke's headset, telling the boy to let go, trust the Force to guide his shot. Plo banked hard, smashing a pursuing TIE into the Death Star with a perfect maneuver, and over the comms, he told Luke that he will keep them off his back. He must be the one to finish this. With renewed focus, Luke closed in on the station's narrow exhaust port, eyes closed, hands steady. He reached into the Force. Plo's fighter streaked across his flank, intercepting a final barrage just long enough for Luke to safely pull the trigger. The torpedoes shot down the trench in perfect sync, spiraling into the core of the station. Inside, Emperor Palpatine gave Tarkin the go-ahead to fire on the planet, now that it is in range. Palpatine felt something in the Force, though. A warning, perhaps? Before he could pursue the warning, a sudden eruption of fire and blinding light filled the void, as the Death Star tore itself apart above Doran, completely exploding. Luke's X-Wing flew clear just in time, and Plo formed up beside him with the rest of the fighters. Below, the people of Doran gazed skyward, their world spared, and the people knew that Plo Koon may be among the fighters above, fighting for them. For the first time in nearly 2 decades, the Force echoed with balance. The Empire's shadow was burning away in the light. With the Emperor dead and the Death Star gone, the galaxy would not hesitate to rise up in unison. It would be less than a year before Coruscant was retaken, and Mon Mothma could step in as the new Chancellor of the New Republic. Imperial remnants would always linger. Fascism doesn't just go away in a day, but these remnants would now be the ones living in fear. The Imperials were always spineless cowards deep down, and that would be how they lived. Out in the free galaxy, Plo Koon would still work with Mon Mothma and the New Republic, but he and Kenobi would focus mainly on rebuilding the Jedi by setting up Luke to be the eventual Grand Master, also reuniting with Ahsoka, who was still alive. The three of them traveled to Dagobah, and Yoda would aid them however he could. Leia would choose to continue working as a senator with her father Bail. The rest of the rebels would integrate into the galaxy. Cassian would go off to find Bix and the child he never knew he had. It would be a wonderful reunion, and Cassian would introduce Bix to Plo, as the two of them had ended up becoming good friends through their years together. The Empire was gone. It would always attempt to rise again, but with the help of the Jedi and the people, it would fail time and time again. The rebels showed the citizens of the galaxy how to stand up to these tyrants, and true democracy would be restored. And folks, that is our story for today. One I enjoyed a lot, more so than I have in a while. I don't know, this story was just really fun to write. Hope you guys enjoyed. It's fun to kind of integrate the hard-nosed politics of Andor that are really, down-to-earth, gritty. Love that show. It's really good. With, the mystical Jedi force of it all, the Jedi side. So it's fun to kind of take a crack at it and explore what a relationship might be if you put a guy like Plo Koon into this, very gritty rebellion that we see. So I had fun exploring that. Yeah, him and Cassian, I think it's a fun relationship, fun dynamic. Cassian reunites with Bix. That's a fun part to do. Plo Koon, you know, him and Luke, Obi-Wan. I mean, I really just enjoyed this through and through. So let me know what you guys thought of it just not being like a story where maybe Plo Koon ends up on Kid Nemoidia surviving and then joins with Yoda and Obi-Wan to kill Sidious right away, because that's definitely a path I could take. But I really wanted to just explore the path of Plo Koon, you know, a Jedi that just doesn't know what to do after everything goes wrong. So that was fun to write, you know. I keep saying, you know. Anyways, appreciate you guys. Subscribe. We're almost at 100,000, which is nuts. I'll have announcements for that coming up in coming videos. So, you know, it all came so fast. I wasn't really prepared. But yeah, we'll have stuff for that. Appreciate you guys. And I'll see you in the next video.